Uh, Welcome to today's lecture. Today we'll be looking at change management. Today we'll be looking at change management. Change management. Welcome to leadership and management. Today we'll be discussing change management. So these are some of the things we're going to look at today. Describe the importance of change and appreciate its nature. Explain factors in management change. Discuss the source of resistance to change and ways which resistance can be overcome. Play a leading role in setting and managing change in your organization of work environment. Discuss Lewin's three-step models of change management. So to begin with, what is change management or what is change? So change is defined as a process of alteration or transformation of individual, groups, and organization in response to external factors. Change is the process of alteration, that's changing or transforming. Transforming is also change. It's the process of alteration or transforming of individual, groups, and organization response to external factors. So change, you're looking about changing the way people think, the way they behave, the way they think towards certain things. Purpose of change. Why do we want to change something? So we change to meet changing clients' needs. So if the needs of clients require change, we change. Purpose of change to meet changing market conditions. If the market condition requires you to change, you need to change. To meet, to respond to internal pressures. So there's too much pressure internally, you need to bring about change. Also, take advantage of new opportunities. You need to change. Also, to respond to competition pressure, you need to change. Need to change. So change is important in an organization because of various things which requires us to change. It can be competition, pressure in the competition world. So you need to change how you work. Also, it can be new opportunities in the market. You also need to change how you work. Market conditions also may require you to change. Factors that cause change. A number of a number of internal and external forces. Factors that cause change. We also look at factors that cause change. There are a number of internal and external forces which often interact to inform one another to make change in organization. So there's some internal and also external forces which can bring about change in organization. Other things is pressure for change may arise from a number of sources in the organization, particularly new strategies, technologies, and employees' attitudes and behavior. So there are certain things which require you to change just because of new technology. For example, a top manager decision to seek a higher rate of long-term growth will affect the goals of departmental of main departments of the organization. So changes coming from the top decision. And also there are some of the technological changes which take place. I'll give an example of Zambia Postal Services. A long time ago they used to do letters. But because of technology, there are phones, there are few people are writing letters. So as a company, it has to change the way it plans the business. It cannot continue doing letters because it's going to lose customers. So it needs to develop, it needs to change in the way it does business so that it can grow as a company. So change sometimes comes as a result of technology because there are few people who write letters now. You can just make a simple phone call or just write an email. The other example I can give is landline. When Zamtel used to offer landline a long time ago, there was they used to have market, but now I think there are few people are using land phones in their phones. Most people are using phones to make calls. There's no essence of using landline. So Zamtel has to change and bring about another technological factor to bring about change. The other thing is factors that cause change is unexpected opportunity may realize that they may realize that permit the innovative inside the organization to develop new ways of doing things. So there are certain unexpected opportunities, that things that come in the organization, it requires you to innovate and change the way you operate inside. stimulate organizational change. Also, an enormous variety of external forces, from technology advances to competition actions, to modify the structures, cause, and method of operation. So there are certain forces from technology require you to change the way you operate. Also, outside pressures come from change. Outside pressures come from changes in the organization, technology setup, economical, political, legal, and competition environment. So there are certain things can bring about change, such as the economy. The economy is not doing fine. You need to change as an institution the way you operate so that you can make profit. Organization, political. The political ground is not allowing you to do business. You need to change. Social, you need to change. Competition in the environment. There's too much competition in the environment. You need to change the way you operate so that you can also make profit at an institution. Managing change in an organization. Managing change in an organization. Change can be planned or unplanned. The latter, the the latter just happened in the nature course of events. Planned change, on the other hand, is a result of conscious design or preparation to reach a desired core organization state. An effective management. So plan is where you plan as organization to reach a desired core organizational state. Then I plan things just happens and you start moving according to the things which are happening on the ground. So an effective organization, an effective management of change involves change agents, performance gaps, levels and targets of change, system approach, and content and process. So these are some of the effective management of change that involves the change agents, the performance gap, the level and targets of change, the system approach, and content and process. So change agents. In every situation in which a change is desired, some persons or group may be they are designated to as a catalyst for change. So certain people are just meant to stimulate that change process which is taking place. So they are called change agents. That person or group is called the change agent. So if they impose a new law, we have those people stimulate that change. So we call them change agents. The change agent can be an individual, can be a group. So change agent is an individual who is responsible for taking a leadership role in managing the process of change. In managing the process of change. Individual groups, organizations that is a target for change attempt is called a client system. An individual group of people that is a target for change in attempt is called a client system. The manager or staff at various levels in organization can save a change agent. Consultants brought in from outside can also be a change agent. So there are certain consultants that are brought in if you want to bring about change. Their role is to recognize the need for alteration in change, to plan as well to manage the implementation of desired change. So sometimes if they want to bring about change, they'll call consultants from outside to help you to manage change. So they are also called change agents. So change agents are just people who are responsible for the change. They are the one who spearhead change or they speed up change, they catalyst to change. Performance gap. Performance gap is the difference between the status quo and the desired new standards of performance or desired organization state. So it's just the difference between what you want to achieve and what is desired of what it is and what you want to achieve. So the change agent leads to the team of terms of performance gap. So you're looking at what the way things are and what you want to achieve at the end of the day. So that gap is what we call performance gap. Levels and target of change. Levels and target of change. So change agents may identify the level at which their effort to be directed. Efforts can be made to change individuals, groups, and the entire organization. Each represents a different level unit of change. Besides, change agents focus on targets to alter in attempting to cause performance gaps and reach desired objectives. These targets of change include people, technology, jobs, and workflow, organization structure, processes, culture, and management. These targets of change include people, technology, jobs, and workflow. Organization structure and process, culture, and management. So change agent example. So we're looking at change agent as example. So as we mentioned, there change agents are just people who speed up or catalysts to speed up change. For example, individual, a fire a person or replace him with someone else with knowledge, skill, or skilled attitude or behavior. Technology replace existing technology with more modern machines with way of doing things. Structure, structure change from functional structure, a new department of division or solidarity to the existing one. Processes change the way change the pay system from huge wage to salaries. Culture implement a program to encourage value quality services. Management encourage participation, dialogue, and solution of problems by people at lower levels to replace the top-down structure. So all these are some of the change agents. System approach. Since various elements of an organization are at all parts of the interdependent system. Since various elements of organization are all parts of the interdependent system, systematic change in any single target often leads to change in others. For example, when intensive care units introduced ECG machines to improve diagnosis of patients, a series of change followed. First, nurses have to learn how to monitor the ECG, and all have to learn the concept and how to the interpretation. So that's system approach. So if they introduce an ECG in ICU, nurses have to learn how to monitor the ECG and also the concepts and how to interpret the readings on the ECG. So that's system approach. We are looking at elements of organization at all parts are interdependent. Systematic change in any single stage often lead to changing of others. So people have to learn how to use those. So even they end up changing. Context and processes. The key concept of managing change is context and process. Context is what is the what aspect of change, is what aspect of change. For example, assume a manager is concerned about decreasing productivity among its critical staff. She thinks the cause might be excessive talking among its staff members. In order to discourage talking among its staff, he may decide to move the desk further apart to press petitions between them, which is a context change. Process. How a manager introduces and implements the changes is the process. So context, then process, how a manager introduces the change is the process. For example, she may introduce to announce the change by memos or staff meetings. So if the manager wants to implement change, can do it, can have a meeting and discuss, or she can write a memo to the members. She might have the desk move towards the night so that the clerk finds out about the change when they come for work in the morning. So that's the difference between process and change. Program changing. The realization of organizational change require effective planning and program. So if you want to change program, a change program should incorporate the following processes. Recognize the need for change. So if you want to change a program in the organization, you need to recognize the need for change. The need for change is sometimes obvious. As a result, they may not in line with expectations. This clearly are not working well. Setting goals. Define the future state or organizational conditions desired after change. Organizing the present need in relation to the state. Define the transit state activity and commitment required on uh, meeting the future state, developing strategies and action, developing strategies and action. So those are some of the things you can implement to bring about change in a program. You recognize the need for change after you have said, okay, this is a change, you're not happy about it. After that, you set goals. What do you want the future of the organization to be? After you set goals, you diagnose the present condition, look at what is there. Then you can define the transitional state of activity. What is it you want to achieve in the future? Then you can come up with it. You can develop a strategies and action plan on how you're going to bring about that change. Okay, we're going to look at Lewin's three-step models of change management. Lewin's three-step models of change management. So Lewin's sociologist states Lewin evo evo uh, looked at any potential change interplay of multiple opposed forces. So these forces are broadly categorized into two major fields: the driving force and the training force. So this guy is a sociologist. Kate Lewin is the one who came up with the change management model of change management. The driving force are the factors that encourage or facilitate change. The driving force are those factors that facilitate change. Then the retraining forces are factors that obstruct change. So you looked at two factors that the driving force to change and also factors that retrain the retraining force that uh, obstruct change. If the opposing force are apparent equal, if the opposing force are apparent equal, there will be no movement away from the status quo. So if the opposing force, if people are opposing that change are equal to the those who are in change, then that thing is going to occur. For change to occur, the driving force must increase and the training force must decrease. So if you want to bring about change, the driving force should increase while the retaining force decrease. So uh, as we mentioned that retaining force are force that obstruct change. Then driving force are things which bring about encourage change. So if the driving force is more than the opposing force, change is going to occur. So if, for example, you have 10 individuals at workplace, 6 of them are interested in the change, then 4 of them are not interested in the change. Change is going to occur. But if 6 are not interested in the change, then 4 are interested in the change, it won't occur. So change, the driving force should be more than the detaining force, the training force. Change processes, change processes. This change processes. So there are various processes which bring about change. This requires thorough understanding, analysis of the force likely to resist change, as well as those creating the need for change. Lewin called the process the force field analysis. The force field analysis. He noted that force field analysis is important diagnostic and problem solving technique. The analysis analyzing the training forces or driving force which will affect the transit to the future state. Analyzing the restraining forces or driving force which will affect the transit in the future state. These restraining force may include the reaction of those who see change as an unnecessary or constitutional threat. Assess, assessing, assessing which of the driving or the training force are critical. Taking steps both to increase the critical driving force and to decrease the training force. So those are three processes of how you can overcome change. By analyzing the restraining force or driving force, which will affect the transit in the future. So before you need to look at that and the assess which of the driving or restraining force are critical. Uh, Taking steps both to increase the critical driving force and decrease the critical driving force. So change processes. Kate Lewin further studied the process of bringing about effective change. He noted that individuals experience two major obstacles to change. The first is they are unwilling or unable to alter the long-established attitudes and behaviors. So he said, he looked at the first, he said unwilling or unable to alter, to change the long-established attitudes and behaviors. So people have long they've been doing certain things for a long period of time, the attitudes and also the behavior. So we looked at how to change that. Secondly, the change of behavior equally frequently lasts a short time. After a brief period of trying to do things different, individuals often return to their traditional behavior. So to overcome obstacles, so Lewis developed a three-step sequence model of change. He developed uh, uh, the step sequence model of change, which involves unfreezing the present behavior pattern, changing, developing new behavior pattern, and the last one is reprising, reporting new behavior pattern. So Lewis looked at three. Unfreezing is the present behavior pattern. Changing, developing new behavior pattern. Three, the third one is uh, enforcing the new behavior pattern. So the three step of change process according to Lewis, it brought about unfreezing, changing process, refreezing. So unfreezing lies a state of tension. So people there will be tension. This classification is the current situation. Climate adopts to minimal resistance, so there will be a bit of resistance in unfreezing stage. Then changing stage, advocates and implementation begins. So we're trying to change now. Change test adopted for desired results. Decreasing behavior is desired attitudes and value internalized and reinforced. So it's not reinforced by. So the three steps of change process now according to the wind. Unfreezing. Unfreezing involves making the need for change so obvious that individual groups, organization are able to see and accept it. So unfreezing is where now you make the need for change so obvious. It's where you talk to the people about the change. You make it obvious that the change is going to occur. Educate to them about the change. It's a process of creating a climate ready for change. So people need to be aware about change and need to be aware about change and they need to know that change is going to occur. In this stage, the management realizes the current status as strategy is no longer appropriate and the organization must break out of and freeze to its periodic mode. As such, it tries to make other people realize that some of the past ways of thinking, feeling, doing things are not going to occur. It convinces individuals and groups that present conditions and behavior are not appropriate. So unfreezing stage is where now you convince the people that the way we are doing things is not correct. We need to do things in the second way. So you just make the need for change. People should be aware about change. Individuals, the groups, should be aware about change. So you just create that climate for change. It's an increasing stage. It's where you create the climate for change. Employees need to be aware about the change. So you create the environment so they should change their past ways of thinking, feelings, and also doing things. So they should be aware. And freezing to create the climate for change. People should be aware about the change you're going to do in the organization. Then the changing. Changing is once the members have been prepared to accept change and change of behavior patterns, they have to be defined. There are three methods of reassigning individuals or new patterns of behavior. So we have compliance. Compliance, it is achieved by strictly reinforcing the reward and punishment. So if somebody does well, you reward them. Somebody doesn't do well, you punish them. Strategy for good or bad behavior. Fear of punishment is actually rewarded. Is fear of punishment rewards seem to change the behavior for better. For better. Then you have identification. Identification occurs when the members are psychologically impressed impressed upon to identify themselves with some given role model whose behavior they would like to adopt and try to become like them. Intentionalize involves some internal changes of individual thought process in order to adjust to behavior. So members are left alone and given the freedom to learn and adopt new behavior in order to succeed. in the new state of circumstances. As a whole, in this stage, new members is developed and change is affected through conscious process as individuals seek to resolve the anxiety, then surface during and freezing stage. So the freezing, we said there are three, there's unfreezing, there's change, and there's freezing. So the freezing stage, this it means locking the new behavior pattern into place by meaning of supporting or defaulting mechanism. So the freezing, locking the new behavior pattern into place by the means of supporting the forcing mechanism so that it becomes new norm. It is a process of intentionalizing the new state of behavior or work by the word, making the change process effective. The important aspect of uh, change 10 commandments have been summarized as follows. So the freezing is just a process of uh, institutionalizing the new state of behavior or work towards the word. So people will be praised if they bring up a change, like you want to fully support the change process. So I'm going to look at the 10 commandment of change process, the 10 commandment of uh, change process. The 10 commandment of change process. So there's analyze the organization and its need for change. Any change process to start with understanding of how the organization works. What is the strength? What is the weakness? What is the relationship to the environment? And what is the need for change? So first you need to analyze the change you need to bring about. You look at the strength and also the weakness of an organization. Another strategy is create another commandment for change, create a shared vision and common direction. So right now you show the subordinates about the vision of organization. One of the key first steps is to unite the organization around the vision of the future. The second is separate from the past. This is absolute detachment from the past. The organization must identify the aspects of operation are not no longer relevant. Create a sense of urgency. A sense of urgency seems to be important for organizations to increase and develop support for the change. Sense of urgency is accelerated as a result of crisis. But preferable organizations should be productive in their change strategies and change for crisis occurs. Support a strong leader. Transformational leader. Several studies demonstrate that a strong leader is a factor to vision creation, motivation, and beyond vision and the word who strive towards realization. So support a strong leader. Line up political support. Although leadership is very important prerequisite for proper change, it is not enough in its own. Successful change needs a broad-based support from all stakeholders, including those who will lose as well as those who will have profit. Craft implementation, craft implementation plan. Both visions of paramount importance is effective change. The organization needs a clear information about what will be done and how to achieve. So a roadmap has to be prepared, giving clear direction and a route to take. Develop enabling structures. These all structures and methods of working are likely to satisfy to support a sustained change. So enabling structure are system and structure support the transformational process during transition from the old to the new. This includes institutional name, log, uniform, and weight, location, and renewal. So we need to develop enabling structure. So we need to come about new old structures and method of working and like to satisfy the support. So you might even change the way you drive as an institution to bring about change. So you can change your logo, you can change your uniform, you can change where the offices are located, you can change also everything about you. Communicate, involve people and be honest where whenever possible there should be open communication and involve the trust of the organization. enforce and institutionalize the change. Managers need to constantly demonstrate their commitment to the change. They should reward the new desired behavior and ensure they become part of normal day-to-day operation. So resistance to change and gain support, resistance to change and gain support, resistance to change and gain support. Reason for resistance to change. There are various reasons which can bring about resistance to change. So we're going to look at some of them. Resistance to change is either always accepted nor always rejected. So when you bring about change, it's either to be accepted or to be rejected. Some people desire change and welcome new experience as they break from monotony. And on the other hand, there are good numbers of people who resist change for various reasons than one. So if you try to bring about change in your department, if you're going to be an in charge, there are people going to accept change and others are not going to accept change. Management may recognize the need for change, but most employees may resist the process. No matter what the resistance might arise, the change must occur continuously in order to adjust to the dynamic forces that are continuous at play. The society will become stagnant if no change took place. The reason for the resistance for change must be studied carefully for four main reasons. So, palatial self-interest, three to core skills and competence, three to status, three to power base. The other thing which can bring about change and gaining support is misunderstanding and lack of trust, lack of information, misunderstanding, historic factors, poor timing, low trust of organization climate, poor relationship, also contra contradictory assessment, no perceived benefits. So people should be perceived of change, assessment of the purpose of change in long and ill out, proper peer group norms which may shape the contradicted assessment, low tolerance of change, fear of unknown. Some people, because of fear unknown, they can resist change. Fear of failure, people can fear that it won't work. Customer bound, they are trying to do things according to the customer, reluctant to let go of the past. It can also affect change. A variety of reasons now exist for resistance of change. The change itself is a method of the change itself is method of implementation that may oppose. If not managed correctly, the opposition can be minimized and completely eliminated. Managing resistance to change. Managing resistance to change. If the change is to be implemented successfully, it needs full acceptance and cooperation from employees. Managing resistance to change. Education and communication. Management should educate employees about the coming changes before they occur. So before you implement a change, you need to educate and communicate. It should communicate not only to the nature of the change, but its logic. The process includes one-on-one discussion, presentation, conferences, brochures, reports, and memos. So before you enforce change, you need to communicate and educate the importance of change. That's according to Caton 6 methods, and also participation and involvement. So you need when change involves when management involves people likely to resist change in planning and implementation, they're likely to resist change. So those people who you have identified can resist change are the same people involved in the planning of change and implementation. So research have proven that people likely to resist change when they're involved from the start. So if you are trying to resist change, you need to involve the people in the planning. Facilitate and support. Management should take the change as easy as possible for employees to be supportive of their efforts. This could be achieved through providing training new skills and giving employees time off after a demanding period of change. Negotiation and agreement. When necessary, management can offer concrete incentives for cooperation with the change. The words such as bonuses, wages, salaries, recognition, job assignments help the structuring to enforce the direction for change. So negotiation and agreement should be there. Manipulation and cooperation involves taking covert attempts to influence others. Cooptation. One one common form of manipulation is cooptation. Cooptation involves giving informal leaders or resistance individuals a desired role in the design and implementation of change. So those people you have seen or leaders who can use change, you involve them in the implementation of change. So the leader to be members of the executive committee are asked as key from outside employees to join the company board of directors. As a person involved to change, he or she may be less likely reluctant to the individual and competing groups and organizations. So on this one, those people you think are going to resist change, you involve them in the change process. To make involve them in the change process. So change is going to occur. Explicitly and implicitly coincidence. Some manager apply punishment to those who are resistant. So you can with this approach, manager will use force to make people comply with their wishes. A boss may force employees to go along with the change by threatening them with dismissal of being passed over for promotion with an attractive job assignment or through other negative suggestions. So if individuals are resisting change, some bosses can punish them or threaten them with a dismissal so they comply to change. Okay, this is the difference I was using. And for any questions, you can contact me. This is change management. Change management. We'll be discussing change management. For any questions, you can contact me.